in as a server administrator. So if I come back here and I want to edit the channel, I simply tap on edit, and another pop-up appears which shows me all of the information that I can change. So as you can see here, I can scroll down, I can change the miscellaneous, the channel type, whether it's encrypted, I can change a description or a topic. So for example, I might put a topic in here, and I say Battlefield 2. And I'm going to save that by tapping the save button. And then once I've done making changes, I simply save that here. And as you can see, it's then committed the savings to it. So here, if you look at topic, I now have Battlefield 2 listed. So I'm going to tap back to go back to the screen of my channels. So now I've shown you some very basic things that you can do on the iPad application, including, connecting to a server via a bookmark and, doing some basic things with channels once connected. So obviously that's switching to a channel, or if you're a server admin, that's editing a channel. Obviously, if I tap here again, you'll see that I can create channels and I can create sub-channels. Again, these are simply enabled by tapping to get the pop-up, filling in the necessary information, and tapping the save button up in the corner. So I'm going to return back here, and now let's talk a little bit about how to use more of the bookmarks functions. So I'm going to tap back here on bookmarks. And as you can see here, this is a long list, right? I could populate this with a lot of different servers. Now, much the way that the desktop client works, you can open up multiple server connections on the TeamSpeak for iPad. To do that, I would simply need to create another bookmark. That's accomplished by tapping this plus button here down in the corner. And as you see, there's now another pop-up that allows me to specify the information for that server. So the details are exactly the same as you find on the desktop client. I need an address. The label is optional. It simply would determine the name that's listed here for that specific server. There's a port number if that's needed, a nickname, a server password, and then of course there's this identity tab. So the identity allows you again to select which of the pre-loaded identities you want to apply to the server. We're going to cover that topic in just a second, but again, this is all about being able to connect quickly. So if you've imported your identities, then using them and having all those permissions means that you don't have to enter all that information again. Now, when I'm done with all of this, I simply would tap the Done button, and that would then list another bookmark here in the list. So now that we just kind of showed you what that bookmark functionality is, let's actually go ahead and add a bookmark, and I do that by tapping on the plus button. Now here, what we need to do is simply fill out the basic data points for our bookmark. So first is the address, and I'm going to type in the address of basically a public server. So that IP is 208.72.158.82. And I'm going to save that. Now here, the label, I'm just going to put other server. And again, I'm going to tap the save button. The port, I'm not going to enter a port here. My nickname, I'm going to keep the same. My server password, I don't have to do one because this is a public server. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and tap done. So as you see here, I now have two bookmarks listed. One is my original guild server. As you can see here, that's what I'm connected to on the right. But I'm also connected to the other server. As you can see here, I can come back to the server by returning the server button. So again, that's accessible through the bookmarks. But I can also return home. And as you see here now, this bottom part of this left-hand menu shows all of the servers to which I'm connected to. So I can tap easily between the two to jump back and forth. Of course, I can also disconnect all of them by tapping on the button here, at which time I return the application to its original state. So as the last part of this tutorial for the TeamSpeak iPad application, we're going to show you how to import an identity into the iPad client. So as we said before, this is a really great way to bring over all of your server settings. For example, if you have admin privileges for certain servers and things like that, you'll need to bring that over to the iPad application so that you have all of the same capabilities and permissions and all of the servers that you connect to. Now this starts with the TeamSpeak client on your computer. So what we need to do is we need to go into settings and identities. As you'll see here, we just have a default setup. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to export out by clicking on the export button here, and that will save it to our local desktop. Of course, there's a warning here about not sending this file to anybody. So we'll just click the yes button, and of course it will prompt us to save this, and we need to save this as a .ini file. So I'm going to save this as my TeamSpeak identities.ini, and I'm actually going to save that onto my desktop so that I know where it is. And I click the save button. As we can see here, there's the file that's been saved. Now I'm going to click, I'm going to cancel out of this, and the next thing we need to do is we actually need to bring in that ini file into iTunes. TeamSpeak includes the ability for you to move files back and forth between iTunes and the application, which is great if people are sharing screenshots and things like that with you. So there's a way to get them off of the iPad application and onto your computer through iTunes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump over to iTunes. So here we have iTunes, and I'm going to click on my device, my iPad, and I'm going to go into my Applications tab, my Apps tab up here at the top, and that will list all of my applications. And at the bottom of this screen, you'll see that there's apps that allow file sharing. So I'm going to scroll through here until I find TeamSpeak. As you can see, here's TeamSpeak. Now, right now, these are some log files. So again, this is a way for you to get information off of the TeamSpeak client from the iPad. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually add a file. So I click the Add button, and I come over to the desktop, and I go to my TeamSpeak identities.ini file that I found, and I click the Open button. And as you can see here, it's now brought into the TeamSpeak documents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sync that, and after I sync it, we're going to return back to the iPad application, which I will then show you how to import that file that you've just shared with TeamSpeak so that you get all your identities over there. So as you just saw before, on our TeamSpeak 3 desktop client, we exported a single identity from the TeamSpeak 3 application, and we then synchronized that through iTunes to the iPad TeamSpeak application. So as you can see now, when we return to the application on the iPad, we have a pop-up that indicates that the identity has successfully been imported. You'll note here, though, that it says only one identity. That was because in the software, we only clicked on